Welcome, everyone, to the Aliveness Habit, refreshing conversations with everyday masters of aliveness. I am Alexandra Howard, and I'm here with a very special guest, Jodi Wilding, and we are going to have a chat about the full rapture of aliveness, what it means for Jodi, and how this conversation series is really just I find people in my life that I just I wanna learn from. I love their energy. I love their spirit, and we just jump on and we have conversations about aliveness. And so here we are. And Jodi is a transformational alignment coach, and she is somebody who I know, a good friend of mine. We share spaces out in the world together, and she is here to share with us some really beautiful insights around aliveness, because this is a big core part of what she does, helping bridge the gap between peak performance and well-being. So thank you, Jodi, for being here. I'm so excited to have you as my guest today.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here and to dive into this with you.
Awesome. So I always kick off my chats with a question. And then that question directs us. And we never know where it's going to go. But the question, and that's okay. That is the whole point of this. But yeah, the question is, what does aliveness mean to you?
It's a beautiful question to kick us off here. Aliveness, what does it mean to me? So when I think of it, I think of this like vibrant state of being, right? That's like, I don't know, when you're curious and adventurous and authentic and passionate and probably really present. Um, and I think that feeling emerges for me when I'm really involved in something that I love doing, when I'm showing up and being really true to who I am and being really honest and open about that, which I wasn't always, but now experiencing that. And I think also just being really deeply connected with the people around me. I love like those just deep, meaningful relationships that really just fuels me.
Mm,
Yeah.
yummy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. You sharing a lot here. I love it. um, Curious, adventurous, present, that vibrant feeling, uh,
Yeah.
just being in alignment, in touch, in connection. Yeah.
Mhm.
And what
Mhm.
kinds of yeah, connection with people, so conversations, being in deep
Mhm.
conversations. Yeah, I agree with you. Um, what has how has it evolved for you, the experience of aliveness?
How has it evolved? Like,
Mhm.
well, I mean, maybe it helps to share a time when I didn't
Sure.
really feel this.
Yeah, great.
So, like 7 or 8 years ago, I would say was a low point in my life where my father just passed away. We, after like a few difficult years with Parkinson's disease, I had a young son. You know, I had a house and a partner and a career, and I just felt exhausted. Like I just didn't have that energy or that zest for life that I once had. And um, I really craved this different way of being. I would wake up in the morning and not recognize who was looking back at me. And I wanted something different. I wanted something different for myself, but also for my son, because I was like, this isn't me. Like the me that I knew was vibrant and full of life and like adventurous and loved to laugh and full of joy. And I just wasn't feeling that. So that was a big turning point for me, and just thinking like, okay, there is a different way of being. And it started this journey of really connecting back to like who I was at my core and what is it that sparks that feeling in me? Like what is missing in my life now and what do I need to bring more of,
Mm,
right, into this way that I'm experiencing life now. And what that was deep connection and doing something that just really lights me up and brings that passion and that creativity for life and deep, meaningful connections and adventure. And
mm,
so, yeah, so that really was a turning point for me and really changed the trajectory of my life and bringing back into those feelings and that zest for life and vitality. So,
oh, oh, I'm so
yeah.
happy. I'm happy because otherwise we wouldn't be here having a conversation.
We wouldn't be here. Like it's crazy to think of just like how different my life is from then until now
Yeah.
and what it would look like if
Yeah,
like
I
I've
think
just met
about
so
that.
many amazing people like you and yeah, I love it. I
I
love it.
know. I think about that often too. And it's interesting when you share, this space of like of crunchiness where you had your dad and all this stuff was happening. I think it's such a relatable space for so many people. And I'm
Mhm.
just curious, like that space of crunchiness for you, what was it that was actually killing your aliveness in that space?
That's such a great question, and I love that language too, that crunchiness. That's so good. It's a great way of putting it. I think it was I had through my 30s, I just slowly lost more and more of who I was.
Mm,
I started just to listen to all the people that were like, no, you can't do that. And like, because I was always a dreamer. I loved to dream big and I had all these ideas. And it was just like, no, you can't do that. Like, time to settle down and time to do this and you should do this. And I just started believing that. And I
mm,
started conforming myself to this way that I thought I should be at this point in my life. But by in the process of doing that, I just got so far from who I was that I just didn't even recognize myself anymore.
mm. Wow. Yeah. So like the judgment, right? The expectations, the opinions,
Yes.
the way
Yes.
that we should be, the way that, maybe those before us have been, and
Mm.
we sort of are, being shaped or molded into continuing in those patterns. So there was a feeling of like of just kind of being on this treadmill almost, or this I mean, I think that's such a relatable feeling as well. It's like this kind of autopilot mode where we're not really like in charge, but we're still moving and we're like, wait a minute. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what train I'm on. I don't know what
That's it.
country
It's
I'm
like
in.
you're going through the
Yeah.
motions,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and every day felt like this cycle of, okay, rinse and repeat. I'm like, really? This is it? This
Yeah.
is all there is? Like, I can't do the next 50, 40, however many years just doing this.
Yes. So what was the turning point? Like, what is that moment that happened for you where you you connected with choice for yourself?
It was honestly like, and I can remember, and even just now, I almost like it stops my breath. Like I just felt this weight on my chest. Like I just couldn't breathe. I was like, yeah, something had to change.
Mm,
It was this, I couldn't continue this way. It was very, very clear that whatever I had been doing up until this point, it couldn't continue. And
mm.
um, I really needed to just get back and to dig deep into like, okay, who are you and what is it that you want and how can you bring more of that forward?
Yeah. And do you
Yeah.
think that that sort of that process of coming alive, was it did you was it like what you were before, or was it something new that birthed?
That's such a great question. And so what I did was it's like a combination, right? Like I would look back and think of, okay, when did I really feel that? Feel that aliveness, feel that joy? When
Mm,
did I really feel most connected to who I am and really showing up as myself? And so I looked at those times in my life and like, what am I doing? Who was I with? What was like happening? And how can I bring more of that into this older, like mother type, like career person and in the life that I have now, right? How can
mm.
I bring more of that into the present?
I love
So
that.
it's a bit of a combination.
Yeah. And what did you discover about yourself? What new thing did you discover about yourself?
What new thing? Well, there was things that I loved doing that I wasn't doing anymore, like yoga and just being adventurous and trying new things. I think I'd become like in my 20s, and yes, we're all like that in our 20s, where maybe more risk adverse and we think we're invincible and we take more chances and more courageous. But I'd lost so much of that and I felt like I just shrunk myself up. So It was, learning to just expand again and
Mm,
try new things and, take up that stuff like skiing that I wasn't doing and even just doing yoga. Like yoga had been a big part of my life, but I wasn't even really doing that anymore.
mm.
You
Yeah,
know?
amazing, eh? When we sort of come back into into this,
Yeah.
and we're like, well, why did I stop doing this? Like, this brings me so much joy. Why did I not do this?
Why?
Um,
And I think another thing, and I've actually had a few conversations with people about this recently, and you stop even getting together with your friends and your family. Like you're just like I just had started making my world so small.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
Like,
so that even just reconnecting with people, people that I knew back then and people who really knew me was really just like comforting and good for the soul too.
oh man, this is beautiful to hear the kind of the trajectory, And so I wonder, what are some of the sort of non-negotiables for you in terms of sustaining, sourcing, supporting, sustaining your aliveness? What do you deem as non-negotiable for you?
So definitely like moving my body is huge. I need to move my body. I love activity and like different activities. And I think it's important for me too. And I think most of us like to mix it up, to try new things. Like, that I've recently started doing dancing, which is just so fun. I love that. And so, yeah, continually challenging myself, trying new things, moving my body are definitely non-negotiables. And I also have a practice of writing, daily writing, that I do every morning, where I just, really create who I am and who I want to be and what I want. And that keeps me just really grounded and focused on on myself and what really brings that creativity and aliveness and excitement to my life.
It is that
So
something
those are
new?
big
Yeah.
practices.
Are these new practices that you've connected into, or have you been doing them for a long time?
So the writing I've been doing for a long time. It's been a few years now and I love it. Sometimes I stray away, but I notice a big difference. And
Mhm.
so yeah, so I go back to that. And the movement too. Like the movement, again, sometimes it's easy to get busy and we get kind of sort of caught
Mm,
up in the day to day, but this year and like the last few months, I'm like, that's a priority. It's a non-negotiable for me because it just makes such a difference in how I'm showing up and
yeah,
how yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, for me, movement is huge. Yeah. I
Yeah.
really, I've really noticed that if I don't move my body, things feel and
Mhm.
look dramatically different in my life. And oftentimes I'll notice like when things are uncertain in my life, like there's a bit of shakiness and a bit of chaos and turmoil, I'll double down on movement. But it's the
Yeah.
one thing that I also notice that I kind of try and not do, like I wiggle myself out of it. Like there's a part of me that's like, ugh, I don't really feel like moving right now, And there's a part of me that's sort of resisting it.
Mhm.
But I know, like this morning I went to my dance class and I was like, I just got to get up and I got to go. I got to go because I know that after I finish that,
Mhm.
I'm just going to feel radically different, and it's going to sustain me for the day. And that's really important and powerful. So sometimes I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves um, to show up a certain way and
Mhm.
for it to be like, okay, I'm moving and yay, I'm excited about this and I'm ready to go. And it's like sometimes it's not that. Sometimes you just show up kind of a bit more melancholy, which is what I do.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm like, I'm just here.
Yeah.
I don't have any big ideas around how this is all going to go down, but I'm here and I'm proud and I'm happy that I'm here.
Yeah.
And so
And
what I don't know. Yeah.
don't you find too that when you do that, like you show up and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do it anyway. And then once you get going, then it does. It kind of shifts that energy back pretty
Yeah.
quickly. I find it
Yeah.
happens pretty quick.
Totally. And it's
So
uh
it's
it's
like
it's
in
very
5 minutes.
interesting. Yeah. And I think for me, it's that like letting go of that pressure and the expectation that it has to look like something or it has to be something or I have to be super excited to do it or I have to, meditation is like that for me as well. Sometimes
Mm,
just, I'll meditate sitting, I'll meditate standing, I'll meditate going for a walk. Sometimes it's just through a conversation, I'll meditate. But so I think also expanding the ways in which we show up for something or the ways in which we engage with something, like it's okay for it to be whatever it is. Let's
absolutely.
show up and do it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but do you think sometimes we put a little too much pressure on ourselves to show up a certain way, like it's quite rigid, and if we don't have that and we're not like that and we're not showing up like that, that we kind of we put a bit of judgment on ourselves?
100%. And then it's like, well, if it doesn't look this way, then I'm not going to do it at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah,
Where it's like, no, just allow yourself to be and look how it's going to look, right?
totally. I do that with running because I was a runner. I was a runner and I'm like, I used to be one of those people who are like, what is the point for going for a 10-minute run? Like, why would you do that? What is the
Right.
point of going out for 10 minutes? Like, really? So
Yeah.
that is,
But have you done that and you've noticed how you
oh,
feel after 10 minutes?
totally. But
And
this
then
is
that
my
10
brain.
minutes turned into 20 minutes because
Totally.
you're like, oh, this feels so
Totally.
good.
And that's the thing. It's like, no, Alex, just go for 10 minutes and trot.
Hmm.
You don't even just trot, it's
Yeah.
okay. That's going to move the energy and it's going to feel really good. But I used to be so rigid in the ways that if I, with minimum half an hour, because before anything less than that was the point. I had to be energized and ready to go. My body had to be ready. Like there was all these conditions I placed on
Hmm.
how it had to look in order for this activity to take place, and
Yeah.
it barred me. And it also created so much judgment within the activity as well. Like I'd come back and be like, "Oh, that was a good run. Oh, that was a bad run." Or this was, I mean, who cares? It's just moving your body. It doesn't matter. Just move your
Yeah. And it's not going to feel the same every day. Like some days your body is just different and it feels harder. And other days, it feels really good and easy and you could like run forever, right?
Agreed. And the
Yeah.
aliveness quotient in this for me, and maybe it is for you too, is 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 just in the doing, right? It's in the act of the doing and who you're being as you're doing it. It's like if
Yeah.
you're not connect or attached to this big judgment and these big expectations, you're just moving your body and you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling how nice that feels,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're just able to like flow with it.
Yeah.
And for
Absolutely.
me, that's been one of my biggest learnings around aliveness. It's like release the pressure.
Oh,
Let it
100%.
go.
Yeah.
Let it go. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Definitely release that pressure and like it is really connecting to that kid again and just not caring and just playing and being free with it, right?
Yeah.
Not putting the pressure, the expectations and conditions
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, totally. Um, yeah, and it's unfortunate, I feel like that it's so easy for us to get into these rigid spaces within ourselves. And I feel you know, like control is one of the words that comes to mind when I think about what we're talking about. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on control and what influence that has on aliveness or our capacity to feel alive.
Oh, yeah, control, I think, is such a big part of it. And it's definitely, I think that's been a big lesson in my experience because I think if you look back to that period, right? I feel like I was holding on really tightly and trying to control it, trying to like even just contain myself to like fit into something that didn't feel right, right? And so it's this journey has been so much about letting go of control and like releasing so many different things like stories and beliefs
Yeah.
and just allowing things to be as they are,
Oh, what do you
right?
think you were scared of? Like in that space, what was the worst thing that could have happened if you let go? Like what was the control for you in service of?
I think one of the stories, like it was that vulnerability piece, and it was like I always kept myself really tight. Even I'd have close friends say that I wouldn't really share much or they didn't really know much about me. Like I just held on really, really tight to that. And I think it was like, well, if they really get to know me, then maybe they wouldn't love me, or maybe like I wasn't worthy, or, it was a lot of
Mm,
that self-worth, like self-image um,
sorry.
stuff that just,
Can you hear that ding?
yeah.
My sons are pinging. Let's hope that
Well,
they keep pinging. Otherwise, sorry. They're having
that's okay.
an online ping battle.
It
Uh,
happens. It
no, I
happens.
hear you. This like anchoring in sort of the scarcity mindset, the scarcity, the not enoughness, this feeling, this worry, like chronic worry,
Yeah,
that in some way somebody's gonna find us out and
that's it. That
right?
find us out, and they're like, well, if they know this or that I did this, then like, they're gonna feel differently about me. But which it's so crazy. Like now I can't even tell you what those things were, like
Mm.
that I held on to and felt, that defined me and who I was, and determined whether I was lovable or not lovable, right?
Oh, I know. I agree. So, for anyone listening in, what would be something that you would say to somebody who is sort of in that space of like crunchiness and
Mm,
and struggling to take that step? Um, what would you say to that person?
mm. I mean, that's a really good question, and I think it would depend on, what is more of like the context of the situation of
Mhm.
what I would suggest or offer to them. But I guess if it was, similar to me, or if they were struggling, then it really is that connect with what does light you up, like what excites you, and just play with that a little bit. Try something new, you know?
Just try it. Just go
Just
and
try
try
it.
it without any pressure.
Yeah. Just
I
have fun.
started,
Have fun
yeah, I
with it.
started my dance career that way.
Yeah.
I was on a street, I was walking, and there was this little, the sandwich boards, and it said 5 lessons for $25. And I'm like, sounds good. You
Yeah.
can't go wrong with that. And I walked upstairs and I put my 25 bucks down and I had 5 lessons. And I swear, I had no expectations. There was nothing around this at all. It was literally just walking up the stairs and que sera, sera. And I
Yeah.
started dancing, and I swear to God, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have connected with the most joyful experience, I think, of my life.
I love that.
And it's like I just walked up a set of stairs and I said yes to something. And I didn't
Hmm.
know. I may have hated it, but I just said yes in that moment, and it changed my life.
I
So,
love that. That gives me
yeah.
goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's the other thing too is about that curiosity piece, right? Like in that moment you were curious and like, oh, like what if I
Hmm.
tried this? Like,
Hmm.
why
Yeah.
not? It's
Yeah.
$25. What do I have to lose?
Exactly. I call that the trail of inspiration. It's like you just follow a little trail of inspiration in the moment. And that's
Mhm.
aliveness to me, right? Isn't that aliveness to you? Like that moment of like, I'm not going to worry about the future of this. And I'm not going to worry about any of it. I'm just going to show up in this moment and follow that trail of curiosity and inspiration and just see.
Exactly. And just see.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? Without the expectations, without
Yeah.
how like thinking of how it should look, and just let's just see.
Let's just
I
see.
love it. Let's
It
see.
sounds freeing even as we say it.
It does, right? Like, why not? I love it.
I
I
know.
love it. Yeah.
Well, I think we're heading to our time, I believe, the end of our time together. It's been such a joy to talk to you. I would love it if you could leave us and anyone
Mm.
listening with one thing that you would like people to know about the experience of aliveness.
Mm. One thing,
One
uh,
thing.
I just think, yeah, like that feeling of aliveness, it enriches your whole being. right? It's like the mental, the physical, emotional, that spiritual self. And I think when you do have this feeling, it just enhances everything in life. Like I think you're more compassionate. Um, you have deeper connections to yourself and to others. You're more creative and living more purposely, and able to make a just a bigger impact in your world. And I
Mm,
think if we were all doing that, like just imagine, what society would be like, what we would be living in, like more innovation and
yeah.
yeah, just more compassionate. I think that's just really key if we're all really stepping into that.
And
It's
do you think
powerful.
everyone can everyone step into it? Is it available for everybody, or is this just an
Available to
experience for
everybody.
the few?
No, it's available to everybody. Like, just think of what we have, like available to us. And I think it's just being curious about everything that life has to offer and experiencing as much of it as you can. And we all have that potential. And it
Mm.
doesn't take much. Like, I think, and this goes back to, sorry, this is more than one thing, but it goes back to something you were saying before. And we can often make it bigger than it really needs to be. And I do think it's these small little shifts and small things in our day that can really just create that feeling of aliveness.
Agreed. Here to that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Jody. Where can people find you?
They can find me, well, I'm on LinkedIn, and then my website is jodiwilding.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
Cool.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for having this exuberant chat with me. I've so appreciated and loved
I
every
loved
moment.
it. It went by so
I
fast.
know. I know it did. And here's to aliveness and beautiful impact and continuing to spark the world and enliven it. And I'm just so thrilled that we both get to do this work. And, and it's just, it's a real joy for me. So thank you.
Me too. Thank you.